My name is Alara Hayes, and I am 35 years old. When my life fractured, I was in my office on the 42nd floor, watching the afternoon light spill across the Chicago skyline. I was an urban planner, and my team at Crestline Development had just won the bid for the city's new Riverwalk expansion project. It was the culmination of a year of work, a moment that should have been pure triumph. Instead, my phone buzzed with a text from my father. The message was brief, brutal in its efficiency. Don't come to the anniversary party. We've decided it's best we go our separate ways for now. 25 years of striving, of trying to be the daughter they wanted, all erased in 19 words. My thumb hovered over the screen, a dozen frantic, wounded replies composing themselves in my mind. In the end, I typed only one. Understood. Across the desk, my colleague smiled, unaware that behind my returning nod, I had just made the quiet, seismic decision to untangle myself from the $850,000 construction loan that bore my name alongside my father's. Before I tell you what happened when I made that call to my lawyer, I invite you to settle in. Perhaps you're reading this from a place of peace, or maybe a place of struggle. If you've ever felt the ache of not belonging in the one place you should, this story is for you. Growing up in Dunthorpe, the verdant, old money enclave of Portland, Oregon, was like living inside a carefully curated photograph. Our home, a sprawling white Victorian with a wraparound porch and meticulously tended rose gardens, was a local landmark. To the outside world, the Hayes family was a portrait of success. My father, Richard Hayes, had built Hayes and Sons Construction into a regional powerhouse, erecting gleaming office buildings and luxury condos. My mother, Margaret, was the architect of our social lives, her calendar a tapestry of charity luncheons, gallery openings, and political fundraisers, each event chosen to fortify the family's standing. From my earliest memories, life was governed by unspoken rules. It wasn't about being good, it was about looking good. Alara, shoulders back, my mother would murmur at garden parties, her fingers pressing lightly between my shoulder blades. Alara, your grades are wonderful, but Julian just made captain of the sailing team, my father would comment, a remark that somehow made my straight A's feel less substantial than my brother's athletic prowess. Julian was 3 years older, the and son in the company name made flesh. He had our father's easy confidence and our mother's social charm. I, on the other hand, was quiet, introspective, more interested in the city maps I'd spread across my bedroom floor than in social hierarchies. That's not how the world works, Ellie, my father would say gently whenever I'd question why a new development had to displace a community garden or why a historic building couldn't be preserved. When I was 12, I won the state geography bee. The Oregonian wanted to do a small feature on me. My mother immediately scheduled a family portrait session to coincide with the reporter's visit. We present a united front, darling, she explained, her brushstrokes through my hair firm and decisive. Your achievement is a reflection on all of us. In the resulting newspaper photo, Julian stood slightly in front of me, his hand on my shoulder, a protective older brother pose that subtly claimed the spotlight. It was my name in the headline, but it was the Hayes family in the picture. When it came time for college, I was drawn to urban planning and environmental studies at UC Berkeley. A business degree from the University of Oregon would be more practical, my father suggested, the unspoken meaning clear. It would keep me close to home, close to the family business. When Berkeley offered me a generous scholarship, my parents' reaction was muted. Well, we'll cover the rest, of course, my father said, but we expect you to bring that education home to Hayes and Sons. I didn't. I took on a work-study job and student loans, determined to forge my own path. Holiday visits became a minefield of polite but pointed comparisons. Julian just closed the deal on the Pearl District Tower, my father would announce over Thanksgiving dinner, before turning to me. Alara, could you pass the gravy? My academic awards and design prizes were treated as quaint hobbies, footnotes in the grand narrative of the family legacy. After graduation, Julian stepped into his role as Vice President of Operations at Hayes and Sons. I accepted an entry-level position at a small but innovative urban planning firm in Chicago. The distance was a balm. In Chicago, I wasn't Richard Hayes' daughter. I was just a Laura. I built a life that felt authentic, in a city whose energy and complexity fascinated me. My apartment was a tiny studio in Lincoln Park, a world away from the sprawling Victorian of my youth, but every inch of it was mine. Then I met Ben O'Connell at a neighborhood cleanup event. He was a high school history teacher who spent his weekends volunteering for environmental nonprofits. His laugh was open and unreserved, his passion for his work a quiet, steady flame. He wasn't impressed by my family name. He was interested in my ideas about sustainable city design. We fell in love over long walks along the lakefront and evenings spent in crowded, noisy restaurants, talking for hours. After a year together, I brought him home to Portland for Christmas. The chill set in the moment we walked through the door. A teacher, my mother repeated later after Ben had excused himself to help with the dishes. Her voice wasn't unkind, just genuinely perplexed. Alara, you have so many opportunities. Why choose someone whose life is so small? His life isn't small, Mom. He's shaping young minds. He's making a difference. On what kind of salary? My father interjected from his armchair. What can he offer you, realistically? Not everything is about money, I said, the words feeling thin in the heavy, opulent air of the living room. My father's chuckle was soft, but sharp. Easy to say for someone who's never had to worry about it. The fact that I was proudly, stubbornly paying my own way seemed to be a detail he perpetually forgot. Dinner was a performance. My parents directed all their questions to Julian and his new girlfriend, a woman whose father owned a string of car dealerships. They talked about market trends and investment portfolios while asking Ben about the challenges of a public school budget. Later that night, curled up in my childhood bed, the scent of lavender and old memories thick in the air, I cried in Ben's arms. They don't see me, I whispered. They never will. Then it's their loss, he said, his voice a warm, steady anchor in the dark. Because I see you, Alara. And you're everything. We flew back to Chicago a day early. My mother's parting words, delivered with a cool kiss on my cheek, were, "Do think about your future, dear. Julian is on track to take over the company in a few years. You're not getting any younger." Back in Chicago, I poured my energy into my work, making senior planner in record time. The promotion felt wonderful, but the joy was tinged with a familiar melancholy when I called my parents. "That's lovely, dear," my mother said, her voice distant. "Did I tell you Julian and his girlfriend are looking at houses in the West Hills? It's so important to build equity." 3 years ago, my father called with an opportunity for me to be part of the family legacy. Hayes and Sons was undertaking its biggest project yet, a sustainable mixed-use development, but they needed an $850,000 bridge loan to secure the land. "The bank wants a bit more security, given the market," he'd explained. "Your credit is pristine, your assets are unencumbered. As family, we need you to co-sign." Against my better judgment, and against Ben's quiet words of caution, "Are you sure, Alara?" "That's a lot of risk," I agreed. "Family helps family," my father had said, and for a moment, I'd felt a flicker of the belonging I'd always craved. Looking back, I see it for what it was, the only time my professional success and financial independence were ever truly praised, when they could be leveraged for his benefit. The final straw came 3 weeks ago. My parents were throwing a lavish 40th anniversary party at their vineyard in the Willamette Valley. Ben and I were in the middle of a major project presentation when I happened to see a post from my cousin on social media, a photo of the elegant, letterpressed invitation. "Can't wait to celebrate with the whole family in 3 weeks," the caption read. A cold knot formed in my stomach. The whole family. I scrolled through the comments. Aunts, uncles, cousins all chiming in with their excitement. No invitation had arrived in my Chicago mailbox. That night, I called my mother. The party sounds beautiful, I began, trying to keep my voice light. I saw Aunt Carol's post. There was a brief, telling pause. "Oh, darling, of course," she said, her voice a little too bright. "It must have gotten lost in the mail. Don't you worry, I'll have another sent out tomorrow." But the replacement invitation never came. The following week, I overheard my mother on the phone with my aunt, her voice carrying from the kitchen while I was visiting for a quick work trip. I was standing in the hallway, about to announce my arrival. "It's just complicated with Alara right now," my mother was saying. "Richard feels her partner doesn't quite fit the tone of the event. And her career path is so different. It's easier to just tell people she's too busy with a big project in Chicago to make it." I stepped back into the shadows of the hallway, the familiar ache of being othered blooming in my chest. They weren't just excluding me, they were curating a more convenient version of the family narrative for public consumption. I flew back to Chicago that night, the conversation replaying in my mind. I buried myself in the Riverwalk project, the 80-hour weeks a welcome shield. And then we won. My boss, David, had clapped me on the shoulder, his praise genuine and effusive. "You led this team brilliantly, Alara. The partners have noticed. This is partnership track work." For a fleeting, joyful moment, I reached for my phone to call my parents. Then I stopped. What was the point? The news would be met with a polite, "That's nice, dear," before the conversation pivoted to Julian's latest success. Instead, I called Ben. The unadulterated pride in his voice was a stark contrast to the conditional approval I'd chased my whole life. "We are celebrating tonight," he insisted. "You've more than earned this." That evening, over pasta at our favorite little Italian place, I found myself looking back, not with anger, but with a strange, sad clarity. "I've spent my entire life trying to be seen by them," I told Ben, swirling wine in my glass. "And I'm just now realizing it's a goal I can never achieve, because they're not looking for me. They're looking for a reflection of themselves. Maybe it's time to stop looking for their validation," Ben said gently, reaching across the table to take my hand. "You don't need it. You are whole all on your own." The next morning, back in my office, basking in the glow of our project win, my father's text arrived. And in that moment, something inside me finally, irrevocably, shifted. I was in the middle of a strategy meeting, my presentation on sustainable materials lighting up the screen, when my phone vibrated on the polished table. I glanced down, the reflex to respond to my father ingrained after a lifetime of conditioning. "Don't come to the anniversary party. We've decided it's best we go our separate ways for now." The air in the conference room suddenly felt thin. David was asking a question about reclaimed timber sourcing, and my voice, when it answered, sounded distant, as if it belonged to someone else. I moved through the rest of the presentation on a current of pure adrenaline and years of practice in masking my emotions. No one in that room could have known that behind my professional facade, my world had just been neatly cleaved in two. 45 minutes later, as the meeting wrapped up to a round of applause, David pulled me aside. "Fantastic work, Alara. Truly." He peered at me. "Are you all right? You look a bit pale." "Just a headache coming on," I lied, the words tasting like ash. Alone in my office, I sank into my chair and reread the text. The cold finality of it was breathtaking. Not a phone call, not a letter, just a digital dismissal. I walked to the restroom, locked myself in a stall, and let the tears come, silent, hot tracks that ruined the makeup I'd so carefully applied that morning. The grief was for more than just a party. It was for the little girl who won the geography bee and just wanted her parents to be proud of her, for the young woman who longed to be loved for who she was, not who she was supposed to be. After 5 minutes, I took a deep breath, splashed cold water on my face, and repaired the damage. Back at my desk, my finger hovered over my phone. I could beg. I could rage. I could list all the ways I had tried to be a good daughter. Instead, I typed that one quiet word, understood. It felt both devastatingly incomplete and perfectly final. What more was there to say? My lifelong audition for a role in my own family was over. I sent the text, and then I called Ben. They did it, I said, my voice eerily calm. They officially cut me off. Dad sent a text. A text. Ben's voice was laced with disbelief and anger on my behalf. Oh, Alara. I'm so sorry. It's okay, I said, surprised to find I meant it. It's clarifying, actually. No more wondering. No more trying. I'm leaving school now. I'll meet you at home. No, finish your day. I'm all right. But I need to talk to you about something tonight. The loan. The $850,000 chain that still bound me to them. During my lunch hour, instead of eating, I called my personal attorney, Sarah. They've made every payment on time, Sarah confirmed after pulling the file. But you remain fully liable for the entire amount if they ever default. Given this new development, extricating yourself would be the most prudent course of action. What does that entail? We notify the lender of your withdrawal as a guarantor. Your father will have to refinance the loan, pay it off, or provide the bank with sufficient alternative collateral. And if he can't? He's a successful man, Alara. He can. It will just be a significant financial headache for him. I thought of my father's text of a lifetime of being held at arm's length. I thought of Ben, who loved me without condition. Draft the paperwork, I said, my voice firm. I'll be in to sign it tomorrow morning. That night, explaining my decision to Ben, I felt a sense of profound rightness. They might see it as revenge, he said gently, studying my face. I see it as establishing a boundary, I replied. A final one. Why should my financial future be tied to people who have made it clear they don't want me in their life? Ben nodded slowly, his hand finding mine. Then you have my full support. Always. I slept that night more deeply than I had in years. The decision had been made, and with it came a surprising peace. It felt like setting down a heavy, invisible weight I had been carrying for so long I'd forgotten what it was like to stand up straight. The next morning, in Sarah's quiet, sunlit office, I picked up the pen. Are you sure? Sarah asked, her expression kind. I thought of the text message, of the curated family photo, of the profound, quiet relief of letting go. I've never been more sure, I said, and signed my name. The bank would process the paperwork within 24 hours. My father would receive a certified letter by morning. I spent the day immersed in the minutiae of the Riverwalk project, the complex logistics a welcome distraction. My phone remained silent. The storm had not yet broken. The notification from the bank would have arrived at my father's office in Portland at 9 a.m. Pacific Time, 11 a.m. in Chicago. I had arranged my schedule to be in back-to-back meetings, a fortress of professionalism against the coming emotional siege. The first call came at 11:07 a.m. My brother, Julian. I let it go to voicemail. The second, at 11:15, was my mother. Then my father. I silenced my phone and turned my full attention to the zoning variances on my screen. By the time I broke for lunch, I had 19 missed calls and a flood of text messages. The voicemails were a cascade of escalating panic and fury. Alara, my father's voice, tight and controlled. Call me the second you get this. I don't know what kind of game you're playing, but you are to reverse this action immediately. It is a catastrophic misjudgment. Then my mother, her voice trembling. Alara, please, what have you done? Your father is apoplectic. The bank is calling in the collateral clause. You must fix this. This is your family. Then Julian, his tone a mixture of anger and confusion. Ellie, what the hell is going on? Dad's about to have an aneurysm. Call me back. I calmly ate my sandwich at my desk, a strange sense of detachment washing over me. For the first time, a Hayes family crisis was not my responsibility to solve, soothe, or absorb. I had drawn a line not just on a loan document, but in the sand of my own life. My assistant, Chloe, buzzed my intercom. Alara, there's a gentleman on line 1 for you. He says he's the chief financial officer for Hayes and Sons Construction, and it's a matter of extreme urgency. Please take a message, Chloe. I'm preparing for my 2 p.m. with the city council. He was very insistent. I'm sure he was. My 2 p.m. is more so. The afternoon brought more calls, each one an unanswered testament to their disbelief that I was no longer at their beck and call. Around 3:30, a colleague knocked on my doorframe. Alara? There are 2 people in the lobby asking for you. An older couple. They look intense. My heart did a slow, heavy tumble. My parents. Want me to tell them you're unavailable for the rest of the day? She offered, her eyes full of understanding. I took a deep breath. The old Alara would have rushed down, ready to placate. The new Alara held her ground. No, I said. Please tell security that I do not have an appointment with them and to please escort them from the building. My colleague's eyebrows shot up, but she gave a small, approving nod. On it. 20 minutes later, she returned. That was something. Your father demanded to speak to a managing partner and threatened a lawsuit. Security had to physically stand in front of the elevator doors. A wave of hot embarrassment washed over me, followed by a surge of anger. I'm so sorry you had to deal with that. Don't be, she said. Whatever is going on, you look like you're handling it. Let me know if you need backup. By the end of the day, my father had indeed managed to get the managing partner, David, on the phone. David called me into his office, closing the door behind me. Alara, he began, his tone neutral. I just had a rather spirited conversation with your father. He seems to believe you are intentionally destabilizing his company. It's a private family matter, David, I said, my voice steady. One that I have cordoned off from my professional life. He was adamant that this was a betrayal. It was an act of financial self-preservation, prompted by his own actions. It has no bearing on my commitment or performance here. David studied me for a long moment. Your performance on the Riverwalk project has been nothing short of stellar. That is what this firm cares about. Handle your family business, Alara, but know that your work here speaks for itself. Thank you, David. As I walked back to my desk, my phone rang. Julian again. This time, I answered. Do you have any idea what you've done? He demanded, his voice raw. I've protected myself, I replied, my voice quiet but firm. After being informed via text that I was no longer part of the family. That's not Dad was just angry. He was honest, Julian. For once. And according to him, you agreed. A beat of silence. I never said that. It doesn't matter anymore. This isn't about being uninvited to a party. This is about a lifetime of being treated like a commodity. Valued for my grades, my credit score, my silence, but not for me. The bank is calling for nearly $1 million in liquid assets as collateral within 30 days, he said, his voice strained. Dad is having to liquidate stock at a huge loss. That sounds like a problem for the CFO of Hayes and Sons to manage, I said. I'm an urban planner in Chicago, remember? This is spiteful, Alara. No, Julian. Spiteful would have been letting this go on for another 10 years. This is the end of a bad arrangement. My own words surprised me with their strength. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Dad wants to meet. He's flying to Chicago tomorrow. I have nothing to say to him. The Drake Hotel. Noon. Please, Ellie. Just hear him out. Perhaps a final, face-to-face conversation was necessary. A formal closing argument. Fine, I said. Noon. But I have a meeting at 1 that I will not miss. Thank you, he breathed, the relief in his voice palpable. And, for what it's worth. I never wanted you cut out. I told him it was a mistake. I hung up, unsure what to believe. As I packed my bag to go home, I glanced at my phone. 72 missed calls. My father's CFO had emailed me directly, the subject line in all caps, urgent. I shut down my computer, the glow of the screen winking out like a dying star. Ben had texted to say he was making my favorite soup for dinner. The thought of his quiet, unwavering presence was a lighthouse in the storm. I walked out of the towering glass building and into the cool Chicago night, leaving the chaos of the Hayes family behind me, at least until noon the next day. The lobby of the Drake Hotel was a hushed world of gilded ceilings and deep velvet chairs, a place designed for quiet power plays. I arrived at precisely noon, wearing a charcoal gray suit that was my professional armor. The simple silver locket Ben had given me cool against my skin. My parents were already there, seated in a secluded corner. My father's jaw was a tight, angry knot. My mother's face was a carefully composed mask of strained poise. I took a breath and approached their table. "Hello." They both looked up. My father's eyes were cold. My mother managed a fragile smile. "Alara, darling." She reached for my hand, her touch cool and brief. "I have 45 minutes, I said, sitting down. "My 1 o'clock is with the deputy mayor's office." My father's lip curled. "This is your family's future we're discussing. It takes precedence over a meeting." "Not anymore," I replied evenly. A waiter appeared. My father ordered a scotch for himself and a mineral water for my mother. I asked for a black coffee. The silence that followed was thick with unspoken recriminations. "You have created an unmitigated disaster," my father began, his voice low and furious. "You have put 30 years of work at risk with a single, petulant phone call." "This is a problem of your own making," I said, keeping my voice calm. "It began with a text message, if you'll recall." "Harold," my mother cautioned, placing a hand on his arm. She turned to me, her voice coated in the smooth veneer she used with difficult donors. "Sweetheart, we know you were hurt. Your father was under a great deal of stress." He didn't mean it in the way it sounded. He meant, "Don't come to the anniversary party. We've decided it's best we go our separate ways for now." It seemed quite clear to me. I met my mother's gaze, as did the story you were telling Aunt Carol about me being too busy to attend. My mother flinched, a flicker of genuine hurt in her eyes. My father waved a dismissive hand. "We've been dancing around this for years, Alara. Your life choices, your partner, they don't align with the image this family needs to project." It was time for some honesty. The raw, unvarnished truth of it was almost a relief. "So I'm bad for the brand," I stated. "I've understood that for a long time." Which begs the question, why involve me in the brand's finances? Why tie my name to an $850,000 loan if I was such a liability? A muscle in my father's jaw twitched. It was a practical matter. "Your financial profile secured a preferential interest rate. A rate you've now lost because you decided to fire your daughter via text. This could have been handled with dignity if you hadn't reacted with such childish vindictiveness," he shot back. I couldn't help it. A small, humorless laugh escaped my lips. "Childish? I have spent 35 years trying to win your approval. My decision was the most adult thing I have ever done." "We gave you everything," my father said, his voice rising. "The best schools, a home, a name that opened doors." "You gave me things," I corrected him softly. "You never gave me acceptance." The waiter delivered our drinks, the clink of glass onward loud in the tense quiet. "What will it take," my father said, his tone shifting to business, "to have you reverse your decision and re-sign the guarantee?" "That will not be happening," I said. "My disengagement from the family finances is permanent." His face flushed a deep, mottled red. "You would endanger your family's legacy over a hurt feeling?" "I am protecting my own future, and the legacy will be fine. Hayes & Sons is a multi-million-dollar company." Sarah, my lawyer, confirmed it. "This is an inconvenience for you, not a catastrophe." "You discussed our private family business with an outside attorney?" he sputtered, genuinely aghast at the breach of protocol. "She's my attorney. It's her job to protect my interests, since it's become clear no one in my family will." Before he could retort, Julian arrived, looking stressed and rumpled from his flight. He pulled up a chair, his eyes finding mine. "Ellie, I'm sorry I'm late." "Julian?" my mother said, surprised. My father's expression darkened. He hadn't known Julian was coming. This wasn't a united front. It was an intervention. "Why are you here, Julian?" I asked quietly. He glanced at our father, then back at me. "Because this has to stop. The lies, the manipulation. It's poisoning everything." He sat down. Dad never told me he was sending you that text. I found out when he complained about your one-word reply. We discussed the guest list, our father said stiffly. We discussed the importance of the event, Julian countered. You never said you were going to formally uninvite your own daughter. It was implied. No, Julian said, his voice firm. It wasn't. He turned to me, his gaze direct and filled with a regret I hadn't seen in him in years. I should have called you immediately. I let him steamroll me like I always do. I'm sorry, Ellie. We need to focus on the financial crisis at hand, my father cut in, trying to regain control. Rebecca, if you resign. That's not why I'm here, Julian said. I'm here to tell the truth. He took a deep breath. Ellie, you need to know why he really needed you to sign that loan. It wasn't just for a better interest rate. 3 years ago, the company was leveraged to the hilt. Julian, that is enough, my father commanded, his voice like ice. No, it's not, Julian pressed on, his own voice gaining strength. The South Waterfront project was bleeding money. We had cost overruns and permit battles with the city. The banks were threatening to pull our credit lines. We were on the verge of defaulting. Your signature wasn't just helpful, Ellie. It saved us from potential bankruptcy. My mother let out a small, sharp gasp. Richard, is that true? My father said nothing, his face a grim mask. So you came to me when your company was on the brink of collapse? I asked, the pieces clicking into place with a sickening finality. It was a temporary liquidity problem, my father finally burst out. A situation I would have explained if you'd ever shown the slightest interest in the business that paid for your life. Stop it, Dad, Julian said, his voice weary. This is what you do. You use her, and when she pushes back, you blame her for not being grateful enough to be used. My father stood, his chair scraping against the floor. I will not be lectured by my own children. Alara, you have until the end of the day to fix this, or you will hear from my attorneys. Sit down, Dad, Julian said quietly. There's more. The chilling tone in his voice made my father pause. What more? I asked. Julian opened his briefcase and pulled out a folder, sliding it across the table to me. After I found out what was really going on, I had our new CFO do a full audit. Alara, your signature is on 2 other documents. A line of credit from 2020 and an equipment financing deal from last year. I stared at the papers, at the looping signature that was a close but imperfect imitation of my own. A cold dread washed over me. I never signed these, I whispered, looking straight at my father. He refused to meet my eyes. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. Harold, she breathed. Tell me you didn't. They were necessary short-term measures, he said stiffly. No harm was done. The payments were always made. It's fraud, I said, the word hanging in the air. It's a felony. Which is why, Julian said, his voice low, I've already had our legal team start the process of quietly rectifying the situation with the banks, explaining it as an internal clerical error. He looked at me. I'm cleaning it up, Ellie. But I needed you to know the truth. My father stared at Julian, his face a canvas of betrayal. You went behind my back. I did the right thing, Julian said. For the first time in a long time. I looked at my brother, truly seeing him, perhaps for the first time since we were children. The golden boy, the heir apparent, was choosing integrity over inheritance. Why, Julian? I asked. Why now? He was quiet for a moment, his gaze softening. My wife is pregnant, he said. We found out last month. And it made me think about what kind of man I want to be, what kind of father. What kind of brother. He met my eyes. And I miss my sister. Tears pricked my eyes. My phone alarm chimed softly, signaling the end of my 45 minutes. My father, defeated and exposed, grabbed his coat and strode away without another word. My mother hesitated, her face a maelstrom of confusion and hurt, before scurrying after him. Julian and I sat in the sudden silence. I am so sorry, Ellie, he said again. For all of it. I know, I said, and for the first time, I believed we might find our way back to each other. What will you do now? He asked. I stood, gathering my things, a strange sense of lightness filling my chest. I'm going to my 1 o'clock meeting, I said. About the loan, I'm doing nothing. About the forgeries, I'll let you and the lawyers handle it for now. And about family, I think I'm just beginning to figure that out. As I walked out of the Drake's opulent lobby and into the bright, bustling Chicago afternoon, I felt the last of the invisible weight lift from my shoulders. The truth, in all its painful, messy glory, had set me free. 3 months have passed since that day at the Drake. The autumn leaves have fallen, and a crisp winter wind now blows off Lake Michigan. Life has settled into a new, quieter, more authentic rhythm. My father, true to his word, had his attorneys send a blustering letter, which was quickly withdrawn once Sarah, my lawyer, responded with a polite but firm mention of the forged documents. Hayes and Sons secured new financing at a considerably higher interest rate. The legacy, it turned out, was resilient enough to withstand the truth. My mother called me a week after the confrontation. She was staying with her sister in Seattle. Her voice, stripped of its usual social gloss, was thin and uncertain. I didn't know Alara, she'd said. About the forgeries. About how desperate he was. I was so busy managing appearances, I never looked at what was underneath. It wasn't an apology, but it was an admission, a crack in the facade that let a little light in. We've spoken a few times since, our conversations tentative, like learning a new language. Julian has become a regular presence in my life. He calls every Sunday. We talk about his impending fatherhood, my work on the Riverwalk, and everything in between. We are slowly, carefully, rebuilding a relationship on a foundation of honesty, not obligation. He and his wife came to Chicago last month, and the 4 of us had dinner. It was easy and full of laughter. Professionally, my world has bloomed. The Riverwalk project is underway, a tangible expression of my dreams for a more livable city. David officially made me a junior partner at the firm last week. My name is on the door now, earned not by birthright, but by merit. But the most profound changes have been internal. I've learned that boundaries are not acts of aggression, but acts of self-respect. I've learned that my worth is not a reflection in someone else's eyes, but a light that shines from within. 2 weeks ago, on a perfectly ordinary Tuesday, Ben came home from school, took both of my hands in his, and asked me to be his wife. He didn't have a ring, just a heart full of love and a future he wanted to build with me. My yes was the easiest word I have ever spoken. My mother is flying in for our small engagement party next month. Julian will be my man of honor. My father remains a silent space in this new picture. I sent him a simple, handwritten card announcing the engagement. I haven't heard back, and I've made my peace with that. Forgiveness is a complex terrain, one I'm not yet ready to navigate. For now, peace is enough. As I share this with you, I look out my window at the city lights twinkling to life. I once thought my story was about a family I'd lost, but I now see it's about the family I've found. In Ben, in the rekindled bond with my brother, in the strong, supportive friendships that form my true community. It's a story about walking away from a house to build a home,